one of those things where I'm like, yep, it took for us to leave America, to finally be appreciated.
I do want to answer this question, but first, Tiffany says, y'all are my people. Yes, girl. Yes, we are. So Rain had a question. She said, UAE and Morocco, and I'm actually, I have a retreat in Morocco, Reiki in Morocco retreat in November. So I'll be experiencing Morocco for the first time. She said, with it being mostly sovereign Muslim, how was the cultural transition in adjusting to religious laws? And we all heard about the woman who was locked up from screaming. Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of people have that question. But yeah, how was that?
I'm like, y'all better leave her alone.
I know, right? I mean, I'll just say this for me personally. Number one, I've never had any issues over there. Let's just say that ever in the 25 years, whatever it is going on now. And I'm actually a Christian, and I'm a cross culture consultant. So I immerse myself in the culture, right? Automatically. I'm automatically going to immerse myself. And I will say this, my faith actually became stronger living in the Middle East. When they pray 5 times a day, my sisters, I'm praying 5 times a day too. We just praying to 2 different gods, but guess what? We praying together, and we respect each other. So my faith became incredibly strong over there. And I went to church. People don't realize that there is church. There are places you can go. It might not be the physical building, but there's a place where you can go to church and attend church. So that's what happened with me.
Yeah. Nicole said same. She said she's been in the region for a decade. No issues. Respect is everything. And so it's not always what we see. Like we're always going to see the propaganda. That's always going to be out there. But just, respect people's cultures, as you would want them to do for you. You don't want anybody to make assumptions about you based on what they've heard. They're in another country. Oh, well, I thought all Black American women did this. Those are things that, I've certainly, heard in spaces in this country. Okay. Because like you said, Tiffany, so I grew up, I'm from Connecticut. And so literally when I was in middle school, I went from an all Black neighborhood to an all white suburb. And I was a fish out of water in my own country. And there were literally kids there that had never met a Black person in America, never met a Black person, only knew what they saw on TV. So for them, it was like, oh, well, I thought, this is what Black women did, or I thought this is what Black kids did, or, oh, really? Like you can do the same thing. Like, I'm human. I'm human.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
And so that's a real thing. And so you don't want people making assumptions about you based on what they think they've heard or seen. And so therefore you don't want to do the same. So exactly that, you get to know people for who they are. You get to know their culture and you respect them and not think that you're better than because you're American, because that certainly is the hype. Like we have bought into that whole thing. And I agree. I think as long as you do that, you'll be fine. You'll absolutely be fine. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, ladies. I thank you for sharing your stories. It's really been amazing. We wanted to, we could talk all day.
I know.
And I would definitely, certainly, and I'll speak on behalf of Jessica, certainly want to have you two back for season 3 of Black Women Leave America. So we'll definitely be in contact for that as well. But yeah, any other questions or comments?
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. No assumptions. I just meant that there are adjustments that Tiffany needed to make that she found were quite different as a woman in Muslim states. And yeah, let me say, Ray, I didn't think that you were making any assumptions or anything, but I wanted to say that because so many people do. So many people absolutely do.
I'll also add, I guess the thing is, so when it comes to the religious piece, right? So even my PhD study, I looked at, why Black American teachers leave the States to go and teach abroad. And I used the UAE as a case study. So you have like these intersectional, whether it be gender, class, religion, race, nationality, like it's all these different experiences. So I would say, here, as far as like a religion, no, it's no issues. You just stay in your lane, especially when it comes to um, Emiratis, because of course they
Mm-hmm.
have more power than anybody here. But
Mm-hmm.
comparing my experience in the UAE to Morocco, it's always money. That's the issue.
Mm.
In Casablanca, there's a huge economic divide between the rich and the poor, and the expats was that middle class. And I was, stuck up with knives, telephone, give me this, give me that, like very violent. And I didn't
Mm.
speak Arabic and I didn't speak French, right? So English was even a limitation for me. And I got tired of watching my front, back, side. I said, it's time to go. Then you come to a place like this, Wendy, exactly what you said. This safety is so like unheard of. But then you have like one of the biggest crimes that you can commit in this country is debt. That's the biggest
Really?
crime.
Wow.
And there is criminal activity, but like debt versus, and Wendy, look, you chime in and tell me if I'm wrong, because debt versus, I'm not going to go to the extreme of
Uh-uh.
murder, but debt versus drugs or debt versus
That's right.
debt is not.
No, you're
Wow.
right. That's it.
We would not be able to live in
That's
this
right.
country
But
without
it's,
that.
it's because of the
Okay.
culture. But if you think that's part of the
Wow.
culture is also they don't believe in debt either. So the culture
And
also
that's
is
true.
that they
Muslim
don't believe in
culture does
debt.
not
So of course,
believe in
one of the
that.
laws is going to be
That's
that. But you're
real.
absolutely right. And exactly, and you cannot leave that country. So if you go to Dubai, you cannot leave with any debt. Pay your debt, okay? And unfortunately, to be honest with you, I have a friend who became a friend. Her and her family are still stuck over there because of the debt. Because of being a teacher and not having a social security card you had to use, and you could have all the credit and things like this. Unfortunately, she and her family, I've been gone now, they've been stuck for about the last 8 years, and hopefully this year they will be out of debt to be able to leave to go back to the States, or well, wherever they're going to go. But it does happen.
Mm,
Wow. That's a whole thing right there.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
That's a whole nother topic.
yeah,
And so we're gonna wrap this up. But Rain just said
yeah.
also, she says some Muslim states will imprison gay visitors and those who are found to be improperly clothed. So it's good to know. Y'all want to speak on any of that?
Look, Wendy, I'm looking at you because in
I saw you.
Dubai,
Yeah, I mean, so I could just say this. One of the laws is basically you don't show affection anyway, right? And so if you're
Mm-hmm.
coming in and and if you are gay, I would definitely say don't show affection. Now, I'm not going to say I haven't seen people there I know people who come there who are, okay, but they don't show affection. They stay in their lane, right? Because they know the laws before they come. How do they, usually they call me and ask me, to be honest with you, or sending me a message like, what should we not do? And it's fine. It's really the people who really just go when you don't know the laws and you go,
Mm-hmm.
decide you want to bring your Western ways. Let me just be transparent. And that's really just the time when you have an issue. That for me. Now, as far as clothing, I've had a culture police. It's been 26 years. That was 26 years ago when the culture police came up. That's 26 years ago. Like not today, right?
Wow.
It's very different. So I would just say experience it for yourselves. Understand, know the laws, the culture, the rules, the religion when you come, and you'll
Mm-hmm.
have a great experience. People are not just living there just to be living there. Like we didn't leave the United States to go somewhere else and just stay there, and be miserable. I always tell people that. And so, Rain, you have some great questions, and so thank you for asking. But no, it's different in other places. Depends on also what part of the UAE. They can get a little strict, also like
And
that.
that's
So it
what it
just
sounds
depends on
like.
where you are. But
mm,
yeah,
mm-hmm,
And here's
mm-hmm.
the
Can I add to
reality.
that?
Yeah, really quickly, I wanted to say the reality is that there's rules anywhere that we go, anywhere that we're living, and you want to know the rules, you want to know the laws, right? And so it doesn't matter if it's UAE, what New York is different from, where I am in DC. New York, you can't turn on red, you know what I mean? But you go to other states and you can.
Uh,
And so you need to know the laws, you need to know the rules wherever you go. Yeah, Tiffany, go
yeah.
ahead.
I have this way of like comparing it to Prince Harry and Prince William, and correct me, Prince Harry is the bad, the bad one.
Considered. He got the rap.
And Prince William is like the tie to do. Okay. So, like that whole thing about royalty, the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that Abu Dhabi is the capital. It is the emirate that has the most money, which is the reason why the Burj Khalifa is called Burj Khalifa, because the sheikh of the country at that time was Khalifa. Dubai ran out of money, from what I understand, and Abu Dhabi had to come in and save them. So I use that as an example to say Abu Dhabi is Prince William, and what you won't do is question who I am. I don't even have to talk because you know I'm royalty. Dubai is Harry, Prince Harry, and they out there showing out like you can wear what you want in Dubai because that's the purpose of you being there. Wear your spaghetti strap shirts, wear your butt out. Like you would be surprised at some of the things that I've seen there. And it is not just, it's a little bit of everything because when you think about the underground trades, people, you know, all of this craziness, it's there. But you also have to realize that this is still a country where you have so many religions, so many nationalities. There's people who actually like are attracted. They get like wound up because your elbows are out or because your knees are out, right? Like they're not used to that much skin. In Ras Al Khaimah, where I'm at, it's not even, I mean, it is royalty. I've met the sheikh a couple times, but this is where it's like the local Emirati community. Abayas, Candoras, no way would I ever go out in some shorts. Never. Because I don't want the stares. Even when I go and walk on the Corniche, like having leggings on, I'm like, if y'all don't stop looking at me. But it's not always like the law in the sense that you'll be jailed for what you wear. I think the public consequence is being stared down or people, you know, taking pictures of you or, you know, even like just the haram. Somebody will tell you, no, that's not okay.
Yeah.
So it's different per emirate, but I would say that, you know, if you want to come in some booty shorts and a dang tank top, you go to Dubai. Do not come to Ras Al Khaimah. Do not come to Ras Al Khaimah. And don't go to the mosque in Abu Dhabi.
It's the same here, right? Like you go to Vegas and turn up and you gon' dress whatever, do whatever. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But you're not gonna go to some small town, you know what I mean? It's the same thing here. And so we have to, just understand, yeah, it's a different country, different culture, but it's really the same because we're all humans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, ladies. Thank you so much. We are definitely
thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Feel free. Comments is a lot going on there, so I'm steady reading and making sure that I'm getting everything that everyone's saying. We have some other amazing women coming up. I don't know how y'all get on, but Jessica to the rescue.
Hey everyone, I apologize.
I know. I'm like, I gotta figure out how do I leave.
I'm feeling a bit under the weather, so I apologize. But I am still in the background trying to do all the tech. So there should be a little button. You should be able to exit out. If not, then you can just leave the session, just close the window, and then come back as an attendee. All right, so we are moving into session 2. Thank you both. Oh, amazing stories. Amazing. We are going to bring up our next speakers. We have session 2, Nicole Brewer and Charisse, Thriving Abroad, Cultivating Healthy Entrepreneurship and Nurturing Mental Well-Being.
Hey,
how's it going?
I was like, wait, some more people coming?
I'm like, what just happened? Where everybody go?
Right, that's so funny. It's all good. Well, thank you. It's good to see you again. I'm trying to think. You were in season 1 of our podcast, so that was, God help me, that was before the pandemic.
Right. You see, I was like, how many years ago was that, girl?
That was probably about 4 years ago at
Wow. Yeah,
least.
at least about 4 years. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Wow.
everything is like before and after the pandemic. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
space and time, so I can't even tell you all that.
That's
It's
life.
just before and after.
Right. Facts.
But for those who don't know who you are and about your story, just tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're still abroad because you were still there the last time we spoke to you. But kind of where you are now. And really how that relates to entrepreneurship. I think you started your work over there, and so dealing with your mental and your emotional well-being while being an entrepreneur abroad. Oh, I can't hear you right now. Nope. Still can't hear you. That's so wild. As soon as she starts talking, we can't hear her. Still can't.
Nicole, let's have you log off and come back in and check that. While Nicole is resetting, I think it's a great opportunity and time right now just to talk a little bit about a resource that we put together for you all. Working in this industry and speaking to so many Black women, we have identified that Black women definitely need to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
One thing that I'll speak for myself. I won't speak for everybody. I'm horrible at it. I can take care of everybody else, whole communities. I'm out here saving the world. And when it comes to myself, I'm like, I ain't got time for that. So what I decided to do, or both of us actually, what me and Avalaura decided to do is to sit down and really go through what does self-care look like. And really, this is a resource that I have used for myself, that I've been able to identify how to take care of myself. Right now, my feet have French tips that I haven't had in years because I took a moment to step back and go, you know what? I do deserve to take the little hour, right? Can you imagine? I couldn't even give myself an hour because it made me feel so much guilt and the heavy weight of, oh, I'm not doing something else that I feel like I should be doing. So anywho, with that, I'll say that we put together a resource for you and support the podcast if you can, whether it's $5, $2, $20, $100, whatever it is you feel like you can do to support the podcast. There are links that will be up in the chat. So please go ahead, support the podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, go to the description, go ahead and click on the link to support the podcast, and please go ahead and support in any way that you can. And if you don't see those links, email us in any way that you would like to support, even if it's helping out with podcasting. As you all can see, this is a 2-woman show. So we always need.
Well, there's a team behind these 2 women, but we could definitely use more.
We definitely, yes. We now have a designer, but that is someone we would love to eventually pay at some point. Know that we would like to offer honorariums and do live events, all the amazing things that we would love to do. So if you have resources or sponsors that you know of that can support the podcast, please let us know. We companies, organizations that you feel will be in alignment with us, we would love to hear from you. All right, Nicole is back. Thank you so much.
Hello, can you hear me now? I'm hoping
yes,
fingers
you can. Yes. The reset always works.
All right.
When in doubt, just reset.
That part. Oh, technology, the gift and the curse.
Exactly.
Okay, so thank you again for having me. So you were just saying you wanted me to do a quick introduction.
Yeah, just introduce yourself. Let us know, like, where are you now in the world, and and tell us a little bit how how that's been for you. Working through your own mental health, emotional well-being, your physical health, being an entrepreneur abroad.
Right. Yeah,
Like
there
that
are a
whole
lot of
picture, like,
moving parts. A lot of moving parts, right? Well, actually, I am currently in Atlanta. I'm home for the summer, visiting my family. I like to tell people I'm an educator by day and freelancer and, side hustle maven by night. So I've actually been living in the Middle East now for a decade. I was mentioning on the last panel that I'm currently full-time based in Oman. I'm still an English teacher. So I work
okay.
at a university there, and I've been there for actually, as of this year, 10 years. Can't believe it.
Wow.
I was in South Korea for a few years prior to that, teaching English abroad as well. And so, but in the meantime, since I've been in the Middle East, like there was so much interest in the region, and I'm a travel influencer and blogger, freelance writer as well. So I write for certain different publications about life traveling and living in the Middle East, and I've been published in some pretty amazing publications.
You can name the
Lonely
publications.
Planet,
Okay.
BBC Travel, like the list goes on. I've been published in some different places, primarily about living in the Middle East and traveling throughout the region. And then my own blog, I do hotel reviews and restaurant reviews, and so I've been trying to build up my freelancer portfolio as a travel influencer in the region. And I'm also a self-published author, so I published 2 books since being abroad. My first one
Wow.
was published about 5 years ago. Time flies. And it's called a Guide to Landing an English Teaching Job Abroad, because so many people as an influencer asked me about how I got into the field, especially considering I wasn't a teacher in the States before I left. I started in Korea and then just catapulted from there. So that was my first self-publication on Amazon. And then my second book was published last year. It's a children's book. Actually, it's called an ABC Guide to Children's Games Around the World. So I like to tell people I have something for the adults, those interested in moving abroad, and something for the littles to inspire them to travel abroad. So really, that's really what my brand is all
I
about.
love it.
I love the Glow Child. I just want to inspire, Black women to leave America. Literally, like that's one of my goals in life. So
And
that's where
you,
I'm at.
and what I love about this, you said like this is not what you were doing when you were here in America.
Exactly.
So, like, what created that shift for you, and how have you found it to be in terms of managing all those moving parts? And the reason we were trying to decide like who we would put in
Right.
what what panel discussion.
Hmm.
Most of the ladies here are entrepreneurs,
Yes.
but I wanted definitely to talk to you, and I'm not sure what happened to Sharice, but people who are entrepreneurs but also have a full-time job, because a lot of people here
Yes.
struggle with that. It is so
Hmm.
difficult to have a full-time job and to be an entrepreneur, and then of course be a mother, wife, and all these different roles that we're wearing. So how has that been for you?
It's so funny you said it, because like I think about my journey and I'm like, how did I end up teaching English abroad for over a decade? Like I literally have been questioning that recently. Like, how did I get here? But obviously it's been an amazing journey and ride. But honestly, I moved abroad because of the recession. Like I used to work in market research in Chicago, from Detroit, but I used to live in Chicago before I decided to move abroad. I had a condo, lost the condo. That's a whole nother, segment of the interview.
Very similar to
But
Wendy, though.
yes,
Yeah.
but that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. It was like, I'll go abroad for a year. That I literally had the same mentality. I'll go abroad for a year or two once the economy gets better, right? And here I am
Mm-hmm.
over a decade later, still gone because I'm loving a living life outside of America. So, it opened up so many avenues for me. If I hadn't left the States, I never even thought to like be a freelance travel writer and blogger and influencer and, doing the things that I'm doing. And I'm like, just so inspired, and but also the time, like we were saying before about like life in the Middle East is so calm, and like I have the time outside of like teaching to pursue my passion, which is travel. Like so now I'm at a pivotal turning point, like having an existential crisis. I'm like, okay, what next? I wasn't planning on being a teacher for this long, so I'm inspired by the women on the last panel, like starting nonprofits and NGOs and businesses abroad, because I'm like, I need to take that leap. And that's where I'm at
Mm-hmm.
right now. Like on my mental health journey, I actually started therapy last year in Oman. Like people think you can't have therapy in the Middle East, but actually to people, many people's surprise, like there is a mental health clinic, like it's renowned because it's like one of the
Absolutely.
first in the region, but there is an in-person mental health clinic, and now I have virtual sessions. So I'm just so grateful that, there are women who are empowered, like the lady that started the Whispers of Serenity mental health clinic. She was the first of her kind to start a clinic like that in the region. And of
Mm.
course she's Her Highness, like she actually is like part of the royal family, so she has the means to do it and the ability to do it, but it still was groundbreaking. And so I'm just grateful
No,
to have that outlet because, like you said, mental health is so important. Like being an
absolutely.
expat and dealing with the struggles that come with that, leaving my family and the things that we were going
Hmm.
through last summer. So it's like, yeah, I have that outlet. So it's so important. Hmm.
Wow. No, it's something that a few of you have said, and I love how casually y'all say it. Like, how y'all just out here meeting the sheikhs and the leadership. You know what I mean? Like, you don't do that here. That's like saying, oh, I met the president. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, that doesn't happen here. But y'all just out here like, oh, yeah, I met them. And, yeah, I just got this contract. And, yeah, this happened. Which
It's
is a
true.
beautiful thing because, all of these moving parts that we're balancing, like here it's so much harder because you don't have that natural access. Like
Hmm.
you can have a idea and say, oh, I want to do this. But then it seems like there's so many hoops and so many things that you have to go through to get to that point where it seems like some of the barriers have kind of been removed. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like you just said, okay, so let me start writing about this and let me write a book and people are interested. Let me do freelance. And so how has that journey been for you? Like, has it, once you had the idea or you kind of really fell into it,
Hmm.
how has it that been, evolving for you?
Well, it's so funny you say that. Like, I think one of the beautiful things about being an expat and being abroad and being away from my family is I have no fear when it comes like rejection. I always said you got to get through the
Mm,
no's to get to the yeses. Yes. So like as a freelancer and like putting yourself out there, I started writing about my experiences, on my blog. And then the more I
mhm.
felt confident in my ability, I was like, let me reach out to ABC publication and see what's happened. The
Mhm.
worst thing that can happen is they say no. But then I started getting more yeses than no's. So, and I think being an expat actually pushes you to just like
Yeah,
go for certain
that's a great
opportunities
point.
and put yourself out there. Like just thinking about what the ladies were saying prior about starting businesses and the connections you were able to make. Like people
Mhm.
are interested in your story because
Mm.
this is unique, like these are incredible women on this panel, and we've all taken that leap of faith to leave the country, but our stories are unique. How many black women do you know who have lived in Oman, this little up and coming destination in the Middle East for a decade? Like, actually I literally just had a publisher find me a few months ago online. He did a Google search for Oman writers, and he was like, "You were the first person that came up, and I wouldn't
Wow.
approach anybody but you." So he had a travel guide about Oman that was published about 15 years ago. So it's the information is out of
Let's
date.
go.
And he
Yeah.
was like, "I'm looking for a freelancer that can update this guide." Like literally, I'm at a point now where publishers are finding me. I don't even have to pitch
Mhm.
them if they're looking for someone in the region. So I'm like just so grateful because I was like, whoa, like it's always been a dream of mine was like to have my name on like a travel guide, and he
Mhm.
found me. Like that's just a prime
Good.
example. So that's the beauty of like putting yourself out there and having these lived experiences. Like no one else's story is the same. We all have unique experiences that people want to hear
Absolutely.
about.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we started Black Women Leave America
Mhm.
podcast. Like, I started seeing with my clients, really, I've traveled a little, but nowhere near as much as I, would love to. And, but I started seeing it with my clients. I'm like, what is going on? Like all of these women, like I have clients in Nigeria, I've had clients, Mexico,
Mhm.
Chile, like just going. Puerto Rico now, which is not outside of the US, but it feels like it's outside of the US.
Right.
It's its own culture. And I said, there's something about this, you know what I mean? And I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to hear the women's stories because you said something really important, and I hope that you all got this, is that it sounded like leaving for you was a mental shift. And I talk a lot about, mindset, and we talk about growth mindset, and we talk about all of these things, and,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of moving out of your comfort zone, and how the things that you really want in life are outside of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think what you said is so key. Like, people might not have gotten it, but leaving for you, just the act,
Mm-hmm.
right, of leaving your home country, leaving your family, leaving your job, like everything that's familiar for you, and being in a different environment, it shifts your mindset.
Mm.
And so it's not as challenging to put yourself out here now, because you got to put yourself out there. You've already done that. The
Yes.
very act, right? You're
Right.
putting yourself out there, and it's shifting who you are,
Mm.
and your experiences, and your perspective, and all the things that you thought you knew. And so it's not as challenging to say, you know what? Well, this is what I want to do, so let me go ahead and do it.
That part. Amen. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That's the thing about like this expat lifestyle. Like I feel like, especially living in the Middle East, like I just feel free. It's wild that it took me leaving the US to feel free to go after different opportunities that I never even realized existed before I left the country. Like that's literally where I'm at right now. Like now that I'm at a pivotal point trying to decide like, okay, how many more years? I got one more year on my contract living in Oman, and I keep renewing because it's comfortable. It's a good life, right? And and I've
Mhm.
had this time to do what I'm passionate about, writing and traveling and sharing my experiences. But I'm like, okay, what next? So
Yeah.
like it's like, okay, the world is my oyster right now. It's like in a dream world, like I want
Yeah.
to be able to like be a digital nomad next and spend a few months in South Africa, one of my faves, and spend a few months in Thailand and Bali, be able to come back into my family. So now I'm trying to like even open myself up even more to the possibilities of being a digital nomad and looking at remote
Mm.
opportunities and building up my businesses. And, I just recently applied and I'm now a travel advisor with the company for. So I was like, another income stream, like,
Mhm.
trying to get to that level. I said, what they say, you need 6 or 7 income streams. I was like, I'm
Mhm.
at 4 now. I'm trying to get there, y'all.
All
So
right.
it's like,
See?
it's just like the world is your oyster. So I'm like, just
Yeah.
keep going, keep striving. And I think that's one of the things about therapy too. She was like, some of the things that I was talking about and realizing like, okay, Nicole, you are in a pivotal point in your life and these things have been stressing you out because I'm such a planner. I'm so used to having things planned. But what's that
Mhm.
phrase about like you plan and God laughs? Like
Yeah,
I didn't
exactly.
plan on being abroad for as long,
Right.
or especially in the Middle East, but here we are. So now I'm like, okay, screw your plan, Nicole. Like figure it out. Like the opportunities are out there. I'm just
Mhm.
trying to push myself and go for it. So that's where I'm at
Mhm.
right now.
And the other important thing that I think you said that I want to make sure that everyone heard, and feel free, questions, comments, uh, feel free to put them in the chat. But the other important thing that you said is that I think what I'm really hearing, and this is from everyone, is that there's less noise abroad.
Mm, mm,
There's less noise. You know what I mean? There's less distractions. There's less things kind of pulling on you. So you have more of that time. Like you said, the world is my oyster. What do I want to do? So now you have this time to contemplate, right?
right.
You have this time to think about like what it is that you really want. And you have the time to actually go after it and do it.
Absolutely.
And that's
I
so hard for so many people here. And trust me, I have
Yes.
worked with thousands, and everybody who comes to me, they want to be better, they want to live better, they want to do different things, but
Hmm.
there's so many things that are pulling at them. And, first it's like we got to get through the mindset and their emotional setbacks and traumas and all of these things. But then we got to look at lifestyle, their family, their
Yes.
jobs, how they're actually living, the habits that they have. And you got to break through all of these things before they can get to the point where they can think about, well, what is it that I really want? And now how do I actually create it?
Yes, absolutely agree with that. And that's the thing, like being a single woman, living in the
Mm-hmm.
Middle East, like, of course I've dated and I've had experiences and stuff like that, but I focus on me being abroad. You know, not to say, like I said, you know, part of the mental health, like the stressors, you know, family's always gonna be there, even though I'm not living in the same country as them. Like that's all, you know, that's always gonna be there. You're always gonna be
Mhm.
worried about, like, you know, this one, that one, or another. But yeah, but being away, like I have, thank God for my expat community. Like I have my friendship, my circle, you know, my people there, for that outlet. You know, we support each other too.
Yeah.
But like I do have more time for me to just sit with myself and reflect and think about, like, okay, what do you really want to achieve in life,
Mhm.
you know? And like you know, just going for different opportunities, like pushing myself. I'm like, why not? You know, I definitely do feel like there's a level of fearlessness that I have gained
Mhm.
being out of the country versus when I was home and I was just grinding, just on that hamster wheel, like that 9 to 5.
Mhm.
Never would have thought about investing that time into the passion projects, right? So, yeah, I think that definitely is a big plus about like leaving and going abroad.
No, I mean that's real. It's amazing to me, you know, how we are kept on this hamster wheel
Hmm.
here in America. And there's so many different ways. I mean, people think it's a job. Like, you know, I haven't had a job in 20 years. I don't even remember the last time I had a job. And I haven't worked for myself. But, you know, one of the things I recognize is like I can't watch the news
Whew.
because that puts you on a hamster wheel. That you go down
Mm.
this rabbit hole of things that you weren't even thinking
Child.
about, didn't even care about, and
Hmm.
you done heard it so many times. Now you start caring about things that don't even really affect you, matter to you. You're not even hearing the truth about. You don't even know whether you coming or going, and you just get sucked in. I was
Mm.
like, I can't even do that.
That's,
And so
yeah.
there are ways that programming here is real.
Mm.
It is so incredibly real.
Yes.
And so that reset is important. And I think, unfortunately, what happens is, you know, obviously people go on vacation and, you know, we talk about self care and, you know, what the ebook that Jessica and I put together is all around self care. We definitely want you to check that out and get that. But ultimately, what I find is that we are not doing enough here. It is
Mm.
not enough self care. A week vacation, a 2 week vacation, a 3 week vacation. It's not enough.
Hmm.
You need more
Hmm.
because it by no means combats everything that's coming at you, you know, 24/7, you know, every single day, because there's
Mm.
always something coming at us.
Mm.
And so we really have to, it seems like, be more vigilant,
Yes.
you know, really in guarding our energy, guarding our time, guarding our space, you know, the people around us, all
Yes.
of those different things, where it seems like when you're in another country, like you said, you're just more free.
Hmm.
Like you just don't have to worry about some of those things. Some of those things are taken care of for you.
Right. It's
Um,
funny you said that. I was literally just like, you know, telepath, like when you mentioned energy, because I was just thinking to myself, like, I'm big on energy, right? So that's one of the things, like living in Oman, like, you know, Oman is, I call that the little brother of UAE, like on the previous panel, we were talking about Dubai versus Abu Dhabi. And I'm like,
mhm,
okay, Oman is the little brother. Like, you know, it's more conservative, but not too conservative, like compared to
mhm,
Saudi, you know, so, but they are very big on family and, like, you know, Friday prayer, like businesses
yeah,
literally shut down for the day. So
yeah.
like literally sometimes on Friday I'm like, well, let me go ahead and get my writing done, because like
So
I'm, you
it
know, I'm not,
forces you to
it
stop.
forces you to slow down, because
Mhm,
that's what they're that in. And so that's what I'm saying. You pick up on that energy, like, you know, everything is like, inshallah, what will be, right? So that's the lifestyle in the Middle East, right? So like somebody was
mhm,
actually, you know, Jessica was like, really? I was just like, it's a whole vibe, because it's like you
mhm.
realize like you don't always have to be on the go all the time. Like it's not
Yes.
always go go go. People go to UAE, they go to Dubai on holiday. They're there for, you know, a few days, and you know, yeah, you're going to party, you're going to do things, but like Abu Dhabi, like the vibe there, it is big on like family and just businesses
Mhm,
and slowing down. So like Oman is very similar in that regard. So that's one of the things that I realized. I was just like, you know, I mean, when I do have something on my mind, like I do worry and stress about it, but for the most part,
mhm,
I have slowed down tremendously being in that region, because that's the energy that you pick up on. So you can't help
mhm.
but to just like assimilate to it. So that's one of the things I realized throughout especially during the pandemic, like literally you had no choice but to slow down. But even prior to the pandemic, like that's the lifestyle that I'm used to now. Like just taking the time
Exactly.
and just reflecting and just being with myself, so.
Yeah, and I get that because I've had to really work to adopt that lifestyle here in America where I really listen to myself and I tune into, what I want and what I need and when I can pick things back up and when I can slow them down. And this year has been really slow. I really just went against the grain and said, you know what? I'm not going to be doing all these launches and all this stuff. I'm over it. I am so over all of that. And that's what is, portrayed here. And I was like, it's just too much energy. I don't feel like putting out all of that energy. This is what I want to focus on. I'm focusing on me and my health and my well-being and my family. And that's what I've done. And it's been so beautiful, but it's really going against the grain. It is not going with the flow here. So I can certainly relate to that. I do want to say, so Tiffany said, amen. Leaving comes with so much sacrifice, but also so much reward. And she also said traveling versus living abroad is two completely different things. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yes.
So true.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. I don't know what happened to Cherise. Hopefully we'll get her back and talk to her, but I appreciate you, all the wisdom, those points. I think you gave the ladies some, really some important things to think about. Anybody have any, questions or other comments or anything for Nicole while she's here? But that was great. Jessica, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, I just want to add, I've been listening to the ladies, and every time I swear we have these conversations, I'm like, okay, I'm out of here like the next chance I get. I'm on the next thing smoking, right? And then I always stop myself and then like, okay, is that realistic? All the things. And I'm hearing kind of the same thing was happening in the beginning of a lot of these stories. Either outside folks were telling you, oh, no, you can't, or you're just like, can I? And it's like, at this point, I just need to go. I just need to make the plan and just go ahead and do it. Because
Yes.
I feel it. Like you said, Avalaura, the launches, the hustle, the looking at Instagram and seeing people that ain't got stuff as good as yours, and seeing and you just like the comparison of all of it, right?
Right.
Because you feel the pressure of just the weight of everything around you, like go, 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 get, attain more.
That's the energy here.
That's it.
That's what
That
I'm
is
saying.
Absolutely it. Yeah. And something you made me think about, like something I want to say about like making that leap, that leap of faith. I just started reading this book called The Big Leap. I want to recommend that to you ladies because it is everything. Like I'm at a pivotal point trying to decide if I want to take that big leap to get outside of my comfort zone of teaching and writing and move on to the next thing, So it's just like, I definitely highly recommend that book because it's trying to get me out my comfort zone. Just like, okay, what next, Nicole? Like making that big leap. I also saw that Tiffany had a question. She was asking more about the blogging and profit. Does it come with complimentary stays, flights, or etc.? Yes. Not the flights part. That's something I wish I can get some complimentary flights, girl. I was like, ooh, child. But I'm not there. I'm not there yet with the numbers. It's just all a numbers game for some companies and like tourism boards and stuff like that. Like I have certain influencer friends. I'm trying to get on their level with the six figures because I'm not there. But I being in the Middle East, like I have opportunity to go to Africa. Like it's right there, right? So it's cheaper flights. So I look at it like that. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to get to these countries while I'm in this region because it's cheaper. And then I'll reach out to a hotel in a minute and ask for a complimentary stay. And many times I do get them. Post pandemic, it's been a little harder if you don't have the huge reach, the huge following. But I was like, okay, I can get a discount stay too, But but sometimes like I go to Dubai all the time, and 9 times out of 10 when I reach out to a hotel there, I'll get a complimentary stay. Because, for me, like I said, I don't have the biggest numbers, but the fact that I'm a freelancer too, and I'm like, okay, I can reach out to ABC publication when I send my media kit and let them know like some of the publications I've been featured in, not just wrote for, but National Geographic and Cosmo in the past. And so like when they see, they're like, well, her blog may not have the hundreds of thousands of followers, but people are following her and finding her through other outlets. So that's been my motto when it comes to like reaching out and pitching different places. So yeah, I'll get complimentary stays. restaurants, writing for them, things like that. But not flight, not yet.
Wait,
Not
I want to
yet.
stop you right there and say, wait a minute. You've been in National Geographics. How dope is that?
That's what sometimes I'm
Dope.
like, I look back at
Dope.
my resume in this decade, I'm like, whoa, like you've actually made some pretty dope accomplishments. So I'm so grateful because, like I
That's why I
said,
say share them, Kristen. Let us give you your flowers now, okay?
thank you. Thank
I
you.
remember looking at National Geographic, it's like, this is so cool. I never once saw a black woman in there that I can think of, unless it was
See,
a black woman in,
True.
like their little
right,
whatever article
right,
that they were writing on her, but not the
right.
actual writer,
Yeah,
right? Not
yeah,
the
yeah.
actual person that wrote the
Hmm.
article. So
Hmm.
absolutely. And as far as numbers, y'all are making me think now. I'm like, are all of y'all on TikTok? If you're on TikTok, please share your TikTok in the comments.
Yes,
If
yes,
you are on
definitely.
TikTok, you can get the numbers.
Hmm.
Like, and all you got to do is literally take your phone and go outside and go like this. Y'all got instant content.
Yes,
And you
yes,
don't even
for
have to do
real.
it consistently. I did it for like a good 6, 8 weeks. I ain't on there no more, but people are still following me.
Right? Like there's
It
constant.
is wild. Yeah, I'm trying to push myself on there too. I've only started my TikTok this year, and I was just like, shoot,
Well, the
everybody else
amazing
on here.
thing is like the
Hmm.
writing, since you're a
Hmm.
writer, all you have to do is literally go outside and record your area
Hmm.
right on top of
Mhm.
the video. Like
Yes,
people
yes,
will sit there and read it and be like, oh,
right.
it's so pretty reading, So it's like writers, you guys have no excuse, Yeah,
Yes.
no excuses.
That's true. Like, right, you got content for days. I mean, that's what
See,
you do.
yeah, yeah, it's true.
But but you know what? What's funny, Nicole? Like that's literally the epitome of like we say in Black Women Leave America. Like
Hmm.
sometimes you have to leave in order to find yourself,
Yes.
right? And so look at the life that you're living now. Even though you're talking about the next big leap, a
Mhm.
lot of people will say, you've already made several big leaps. Like,
True.
hello, National
True.
Geographic and Cosmo and all the other things that you've been featured on, and all the places you've gone on somebody else's dime. Like that's huge.
Thanks.
And that
My
may have
girl.
never
Yeah.
happened if you
Mhm.
didn't go into this different environment.
Yes, that's
You know
so
what I
true.
mean? And really
Mhm.
find parts of yourself that you didn't even know existed.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of my girlfriends from back in the day that I went to Michigan with, we actually went to Poland together. Went to go see Beyonce. When I started my summer vacation, it was like right at the perfect time to be able to stop over in Europe and then come back to the States. And she was like, Nikki, you realize you live 9 lives already, right? She was like, you went from this to that. Now you over here living this life abroad. She was like, you got 9 lives out here, girl.
So do you
I
That's
was
feel
real.
so
like
tickled.
that's a great,
That's
like
real.
that's real, Nicole? And do you feel like there is a piece of the American, like,
Mm.
um, what's the word you used earlier, Avalaura, about like just it being almost like told that you have to, right? Because it's like you're doing
Mm.
this, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. Even for me,
Mhm.
I look at some of the things that I've accomplished and done, and I'm like, it's still not enough. I still
Yeah.
need to. I
Yes. That's
still
Ooh.
what we
need
do.
to. I
That's what we
still
do.
Mm.
ain't.
Downplay our
Right?
Right.
accomplishments because we looking at the
Right.
next person or comparing ourselves to this person over here, and they doing so much. So we're
Yes.
like, oh, but that's not enough.
Mm.
Hello,
Mm.
but you're
Well,
doing more than most.
I think there's definitely a part of that for, especially as Black women, like we are just expected to just like be able to do it all, right? And I think for me, I this was like myself, like I've decided, I'm like, okay, I've gotten too comfortable, and then I started questioning. I was like, is there a problem with being comfortable? But for me, it's like I want to fulfill more of my dreams. Like I said, I never expected to be a teacher abroad as long as I have. So it's like I in a dream world, like my travel writing and my travel advisor business, like I would just be doing that all day long, and like those are my passions. So for me, I'm like, okay, like I'm trying to just make this little segue out of teaching. I think for me, because I'm like, girl, I'm
Yeah.
tired. I'm so tired. Like I was like, what's next?
No, and you
So,
gotta listen to that. I mean, that's
right?
real.
It's just
You have to
like
listen to
burning.
that for sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
No, I love
Yeah,
that. I mean, if
yeah,
that's one of the things I would always encourage. Absolutely listen to your intuition, listen
yes.
to your body. When it's time, it's time. That's how you got here in the first
Mm-hmm,
place, right?
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
you want to continue to do that. So yeah, if you feel like it's the next shift that you need to make, go ahead. But
Mm-hmm.
it's different when it comes from you versus when it comes from something outside
That
of you.
part. that part. I do think there are a lot of people who are trying to keep up with the Joneses, looking at the next person. Like there's definitely a lot of that going on. I'm like, for me, I'm like, okay, this is something that I'm feeling internally. Like I said, a big part of my therapy and my mental health journey has been like sitting with her and like being like, okay, she's like, make your list, the pros, the cons of being here versus there. Like, like she's helped me like work through, like, I realized I was like, okay, stop pushing this down, like acting like you okay. I'm like, you're not okay. Like it's eating you up right now. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. You've been able to manage all of this. Even with that, you've been able to get the support that you needed. It sounds like you were doing it in the time that you needed to do it.
Amen.
Right? Because
Yes.
sometimes we might know things exist that are there, but we're not ready.
Mm-hmm.
And you did it in your time.
Mm-hmm.
And, you've been going at your pace.
Right.
And that's really ultimately what it's all about.
Amen. Yes.
So thank you so much for
Thank
sharing your
you.
journey. And
You're
we'll get an update
welcome.
and everything that you've been doing since the last time we spoke to you. And we will certainly, keep in touch and see more. And
Yes.
thank you. Thank you all for your questions
You're
and your comments.
welcome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, so we're coming up on our next panel. And
I actually have to run now. I've been here since the first panel, the 11 o'clock, and like I said, I'm about to head over to another event. But thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Okay.
All right, we are heading on into our next panel. We have one more panelist that should be joining us here really soon. But Avalaura, do you want to go ahead and introduce the next panel?
What's the next panel? Look, it hasn't come back up on the top.
Oh, it's okay. So our last panel, session 3, which is one that I was super excited about.
Yes, Jessica was all about this one.
I was all about this one. So anyway, I was all about this. Session 3, love across borders, nurturing relationships, embracing intimacy, and cultivating mental well-being abroad. So we have Tosh Patterson and Shay Cannon. Am I saying it? Shay Cannon, thank you.
Yes.
That will be speaking on this panel. I'm super excited for this one, like I said. And I was like, oh, yeah, we got to have Shay Cannon back on. We got to have her come back on and talk about it.
Yes. She kept us laughing. So both Shay Cannon and Tosh were in season 2 of Black Women Leave America. And and both of you are entrepreneurs. And so, like I said, there's a lot of crossover, right? Easily could have been in the last segment. But, one of the things that you just kept us laughing about, and I think you've since moved, so we'll get a update. You were in Argentina and you were talking about dating and that whole experience, and it was just hilarious. And then Tosh, of course, being married and kind of getting her husband on board, right, to go along with this whole move, and we thought you all would be perfect to really explore this topic coming from different angles, being single and dating, and being married in a relationship, because that's a whole different vibe. It's one thing when it's just you can just come and go what you please, and you can just, I'm ready to go, let's go. But it's a whole nother thing when you're in a committed relationship, or you're in a marriage and you have somebody else you have to think about, or you have a family, you have children, as Barbara did. And I wish we could have gotten Barbara back up here too as well, having children in making the decision to make a major move, and still, have the lifestyle and all the things that you still want. So please go ahead, introduce yourselves. We'll start with Shay Cannon. Introduce yourselves, tell our audience a little bit more about you, and how has it been, right? Exploring love and, and even, and I'll say entrepreneurship, because both of you are entrepreneurs as well. All of these balancing acts, but with all the different parts of ourselves. Meanwhile, taking care of ourselves, and making sure that we really are doing the best that we can with our mental health as well while living abroad.
Awesome. So I'm Shay Cannon, and I'm a fractional chief operating officer. I know y'all are like, what the heck is that? Well, I think you recognize the chief operating officer part, but the fractional part is probably what's tripping you up. And it just means that I have different CEO clients that get a fraction of my time. Okay. And so I have these clients that are like 7 and 6 figure entrepreneurs in their business. And so I help them to manage the business, manage the teams, manage crisis, and that type of thing. However, I have a mission of helping all kinds of service-based on small businesses, help them to get to their first 6 figures. Because in working my own business and working in these other businesses, I see what the gap is in the everyday entrepreneur trying to make it to their first 6 figures. And so I've taken that on, and I've actually am going more off of my service side as a fractional CEO, COO, and more on my coaching side to get more entrepreneurs to their first 6 figures. So that's what I kind of do. So I just like to help make the money and create time freedom. Now, most of us that live in other countries, we value our freedom, right? It's funny because most people think about freedom. They think about patriotism to their own country. And us expats, we think about freedom as being anywhere we want to be, excluding our country. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the freedom. But even when you're in the United States, a lot of you, especially entrepreneurs, are lacking the freedom in that lifestyle. So I always tell people that my freedom looks like living and working my business from anywhere in the world. I started my journey in Belize. I lived in Mexico for 3 years. As Avalaura said, last year I was in Buenos Aires, Argentina, but I have made it back to my favorite little beach town in Mexico. So I have my little representing Mexico. And so I'm in Playa del Carmen now. And so Avalaura knows me from my episode of the podcast because I am very much known for living a very full life. And when I say full life, that means that includes dating, right? That includes the things that you need personally and not just what I need as an entrepreneur. And so I do date local. And so one of the things that I tell Black women in particular is you're going to have to learn how to open your mind and open your options because just wherever you go, there's going to be your people. It's going to be Black women and it's going to be Black men. However, what tends to happen is us Black women tend to try to hawk down the Black men, and they didn't kind of come there for us, right? And so, you know, if I'm going to be stereotypical, if Black women are chicken and they're in Asia, they want some rice, okay? If they're in Mexico, they want a taco. You know, they'll be with you in ways that, you know, is convenient to them, but they're not really looking for the same experience they've had. And we tend to pigeonhole ourselves in the same experience and try to force it. And then get mad, you know what I'm saying, when it's not what we thought it was going to be. You have to kind of open your mind and be open to different things and, you know, explore what else could be out there. So did I say enough? Did I say too much? My sister Tosh is over there like,
said what you needed to say. And and I got questions. But I'm gonna let Tosh go ahead.
Yeah, because I know Tosh like, I'm so glad I'm married. Jesus, is that what you're dealing with?
He said if they in Mexico,
Tosh,
they
tell us
want
how to take
taco.
love with us. Tell us how to take love with us.
Wait a minute. She said if they in Mexico, they want a taco. Okay, that's just I can't. She already done started. I telling you, you got a career in comedy now.
Yes.
This whole. You can do coaching on the side, but definitely have you a skit show on YouTube, okay? Because I want to watch that. All right, Tosh, I'm sorry, but I was like, I got to acknowledge this girl's talents. She is hilarious. Tosh, you tell us about being married, because I'm married too, man. But I know you're going to talk about the intimacy part and the passion, and that's what I want to know. How we keep it spicy.
Oh, we can't hear you.
I'm looking forward, though. I'm looking forward to what she got to say. There you go, Tosh.
I think Mexico. I think Tosh is still in Mexico.
Oh, dang, we can't hear you again.
We still can't hear you.
Yeah.
I don't know if we need to do
reset. Yeah,
the same thing.
Log off
and
come back in.
Or the headphones. Maybe take those off.
Nope. Yeah, she's gonna leave and come back. Cool beans.
While waiting for that, anybody have any questions or comments for Shay Cannon before we continue?
I'll take all the questions. All the
Um,
questions.
yeah, because I think that's real. I do
Mhm.
think that Black women, we are loyal. We
Yes,
are. We're loyal.
to a
And,
fault.
but also too, we want what we want.
Hmm.
I mean, hell, we Black. I don't, necessarily, we're dope. Like, why you want to go to something else? Uh
Right.
but I think you're right. Like, in terms of, if you're going to live in a certain place, you have to be open. Again, the same thing
Yes.
that we had, like respecting culture, respecting their lifestyle, all of those things. And that comes along with, if you're a single woman and you're dating, you got to think these are the people that you're going to be dating. Unless you're going to be fighting over the same two Black men that may or may not be there.
I'm just saying, or the Black man that's coming in and out as they visit. I mean, you have to decide what life you want, right? Because you can have a Black man, but I mean, you have to ask yourself in what capacity will make you happy, though. Like, in what capacity are they actually available to you? And so, I think that's what you have to look at. What capacity are they available to you? Does
Right.
it match with
And if that's what you want, go to Ghana, go to
exactly?
Senegal,
Exactly.
go
Because
other places.
Look what Tiffany said. She said dating
Yes,
in the UAE, she don't want to be nobody's fourth wife. So you have to understand what you're dealing with, right? You just have to. Does it match? Is it aligned with the experience you want to have?
that's real. Carmen says a Black woman travel YouTube traveler talked about dating in other countries, and she said while she was invisible in the States starting at 35, she was pursued in other countries.
Oh yes.
Dr. T say, yes, I would like to know, how has she been able to split her time between clients? Is it based on how much time is required? How are you able to scale your business? Or she got questions. Okay,
I
we
know. All right, well, let's get into it then. Yes, so
awesome.
I'm a master of boundaries and time management, right? So my when I say they only get a fraction of my time, I mean they only get a fraction of my time. So depending on what their business needs, that's what type of package and retainer service I have with them, and I don't allow them to go over that because stopping time is 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and I need to get out to the beach or I need to get out to the margaritas. You know what I'm saying? I don't talk to clients on Fridays. I may work on Fridays, but I don't talk to clients because, as you know, being in the C-suite is a bunch of meetings, and you can't get stuff done in meetings. That's even in corporate America, right? So I have a day that I do not have meetings. I absolutely don't talk to them on Saturdays and Sundays. And I have different communication protocols. I'll tell you, you can go to Shay Cannon, let me see, .com/hours. You can see my protocols. That's a website. It's a web page. It doesn't show on my general website, but that's where I send my clients to remind them, hey, like, these are the off days you were given a year ago. These are my closings. This is how you talk to me. This is how you don't talk to me. I'm not responsible for you sending me a message on Facebook because you saw the light come on. That's cute, but put that in the project management system. So you have to really be about your boundaries. And so you have to protect your time so that you can earmark that time for what you want it to be for. So I have earmarked time for them. Now I'm earmarking time for coaching. And now I'm earmarking time for love because your girl getting
Hey,
dangry out here. It's time to bring somebody in.
hey, yes. I'm just curious, how many women watching now are single, and regardless of where you are, and dealing with the whole dating thing. But Tosh, yes. So as the married woman
Oh my goodness.
living abroad, please tell everybody who you are and a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Well, I first want to say I haven't met you, and we're both in Playa del Carmen.
Yeah,
So I currently live in Playa del
there's that
Carmen,
connection.
Mexico, and I'm just a few minutes from the beach. But I am a pleasure educator and coach. And so I help women learn how to reclaim their pleasure and specifically have a better, more exciting sex life and better orgasms. So that's what I do today. But I have to say, it wasn't always that way. Like, I only left the US about a year and a half ago, and I lived in the DC area, and I was doing the corporate grind, like I had moved up the ladder and I had all the things you're supposed to have, but I hit a wall because I was in a very soul killing, toxic, male dominated, white folks dominated workspace. And it just took its toll. And I was in that space for many, many, many years. So when I hit the wall, I realized I'm not taking care of myself. I was sick. I had an eye twitch. And that's when I started realizing, okay, I need more self care. What does that even mean? What does that look like? And so in my journey, I started with self care. And then I started realizing, okay, there's not just self care, but there are other joys and pleasures and simple things we can do to make our lives happier. And so that's kind of how I evolved into being the pleasure coach that I am today, and working with women. And so I love it. And yes, I am married. And it's not perfect. It's the other end of the pendulum, right? And so the thing that I think is so important is when you're in relationships, you have to have your own identity. And so I really take a big stand on my husband and I having separate friends, us traveling separately. So yes, we live in Mexico, and I encourage my husband, go on that trip to Cuba. Y'all go somewhere. Go hang out for 2 weeks. I'm going to be right here in Mexico. He just got back from Colombia. He had a birthday trip with some of his friends. Great. Please go. I went to New York. I did some trainings that I want to do to expand my coaching and my knowledge. So I think one important aspect of when you're in a relationship is having your things. What brings you joy? What brings you pleasure? And that doesn't matter if you're in the US or not. But a lot of times we become one thing, right? Like we become a name, like a
That's it.
Angelina and whatever, Brad,
Right.
whatever, right?
Right.
And I'm
Brad,
like,
I don't even remember what it was, but yeah. Who
yeah,
Brangelina.
came up with that, combining their names together like they one
no,
entity?
right. Like, like we really have to be true to ourselves. And so I spend a lot of time asking myself, what do I want? Because sometimes what I want versus, what my husband and I might be working towards may not be in alignment. And I have to reconcile that. And so being in relationship, again, if you're married or not, it takes work, and you constantly have to be asking yourself, what do I want? Again, if you're in a relationship or not. But it's so easy to get on that hamster wheel, and you're just, grinding, 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 and you can't hear yourself. And so one of the big things I did when I was in the US, and I still do it now, I intentionally take social media breaks. So, I'll be like, okay, I'm doing a 60-day fast. No news, no social media. I'm unplugged. And real talk, that has consequences, right? Because people are searching and they're looking for you and this and that. But my well being is more important than any of the other stuff. And that's why I left the US. That's why I left the industry I had been in for 20 years. And I have to keep prioritizing myself and be unapologetic about that. Because so many women that I work with, and I felt this way too, we feel guilty about saying no, about stepping back, about being like, nah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go there, and we push through and force ourselves to do things that we don't want to do. We go to the meetings, we go to the birthday parties, and sometimes we even have sexual intimacy and we don't want to, and we feel like we should. And that's actually, you're abusing yourself. So we have to unlearn all those behaviors. And I'm actively unlearning all of it, right? So
As
I'm
we
not
all are.
I'm not at the mountaintop being like, you should. I'm right there with y'all sisters being like, you know what? I almost said yes to go to the beach. I don't want to go to the beach today. I was planning on going tomorrow. So y'all can go to the beach today and I'll see you another time, right? And being unapologetic about what makes me happy does come with consequences, because people got things to say. Like, girl, we'll never see you. Where you been? I've been minding my business. What's that song? Drink water and mind your business. Have y'all heard that? it's like a little song. But people will have things to say when you put your boundaries, when you put your line in the sand, right? And I'm okay with that. I'm okay navigating that. But I have to prioritize me, because if I don't do it for me, then how am I going to teach somebody else to do it? If it's my husband, if it's my client, if it's a new friend that I have, including a boundary I have is around not social media, texting.
So I really am trying to get out of the habit of texting just to be like, how you doing? What's going on? Nope. Texting is just, I'm here. This doesn't work. It's like a quick piece of information. I'm not finna be on text with you for 20 minutes talking about your day. I'm not doing that. And I used to do that. And a lot of people do
Mm-hmm.
that. But that's not how I want to engage you. And that's not how I want to engage you to engage me. So I have to establish those boundaries. But it all comes back to being able to spend time with yourself, asking, what do I want and what's okay with me? So even when I was in the US, it was important to have at least 15 minutes a day just in silence to ask myself, what do I want? And there's so many voices that come forward. It's my best friend. It's my mother, my sister. You should do this. Why didn't you do that? Right. And it takes something to remove all those voices so that you can hear you. And so the luxury that I have that was kind of mentioned in one of the earlier sessions is I'm here. It's not so hectic. I can go sit at the beach for 30 minutes and watch the sunrise and ask that question, right? I can do that for myself, but it doesn't matter if I'm here at the beach or I'm sitting on my deck in the US. I need that 15 minutes to reconnect to that part of myself every day. It's like an active wellness practice
I
that
love
we
it.
all have to do. And it's so simple and it's so boring.
It's not sexy, as I say. It ain't sexy, but it's necessary. That's
But
real.
it's
Like
so
self-awareness
necessary.
is everything.
Yeah.
Um, I think I love that we're talking about, just relationships, love and relationship and intimacy and all these things. And both of you brought up boundaries.
Yes.
I cannot tell you how much time I spend talking about boundaries and teaching boundaries with my clients, because if you human and you're going to have relationships with other humans, you really need to understand boundaries. You need to understand who you are, how you want to be treated, and you need to be able to teach others in a healthy way how to treat you. And that's
Yes.
really what boundaries is. And so,
It is. But have you found, Avalaura, that most people don't have boundaries because they don't know who they are? They haven't set to figure out what their alignment is. Like the scale is not calibrated. So they find themselves following everybody like, maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Maybe
yeah.
that's it. Maybe that's it. And they're not living their own life because, like Tosh said, they're not sitting and figuring out who they are. And yeah, we're going to have to undo and some beliefs that were passed down to us that don't serve us and all of that. I mean, that's parenting. No parent is perfect, right? And if you are a parent, you understand it more than most, right? But you have to sit down and get into yourself to understand who are you. What would you rather, right? Okay, this is what I'm doing, but what would I rather, right?
Yeah.
And so I get a lot in this single world, right? You go to these places, you don't know people. Aren't you lonely? There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. There are people who can be in a house full of people and be lonely, right? I'm not lonely. And with all the meetings I have, I wish I was lonely. I wish I was more alone, right? But I feel like you have to kind of go and decide what makes me happy. Right? People have a bucket list. I also tell people you need a happiness list. Like it should be some happiness going on every day in your life. Everything doesn't have to be such a big event, right? Because life is what you're living in between these big events. You can't just hold your life up and wait to that once a year vacation. You know what I'm saying? That's not life. And so I feel like we have to kind of stop and figure out who are we. Because another thing people ask me all the time is, well, where should I go if I move out the country? Well, baby, what kind of experience do you want to have? Because you should go where it's going to be an alignment for the experience that you want to have. You can't just go to where I am or go to where I've been. That may not work for you. Again, you're caught up in someone else's flow. You have to get to know yourself so that you can start to create your own flow. And so I was just wondering, have you encountered that, Tosh and Avalaura, to where you're talking to people and they're trying to get guidance, but they don't know who they are? Any guidance you give them is just going to be them following somebody else's guidebook. They're not figuring out who they are and what they need for themselves to be complete, what they need to fill their own soul. And so I was just wondering, you guys,
that's 90% probably of the women that I work with. Now it's shifting some now. because a lot of the women that I work with now have been through some sort of therapy. And now when they're coming to me, they're like, okay, I got some of those ground tools. I'm ready to take it to the next level. So it's starting to shift now, but then even in that next level, they still have to find that new version of themselves. Right. And so we still have to do some of that inner exploration, but we're not at the ground level, right? We're not just starting over, from the beginning. They've already had some of that work, and now we're just taking it to that next level. But that's absolutely very real. And I think that it's important for all of us. It's important for me, in every season of the life that I'm in, I have to reevaluate and take some time. I mean, that's who I was yesterday. That's who I was last year. Who am I in this moment? And what do I need now? And so that and it's going to shift your boundaries for the people that you're in relationships with now.
Yeah, most definitely.
I think the thing I would add that I see is many women they don't know that they can make a new commitment or a new agreement, right? Like we're still living with expectations that made sense 10 years ago, 5 years ago, but it doesn't make sense anymore. And it's okay to make a new commitment. It's okay to say, you know what? I told you I was going to come to your birthday party, and I wanted to come to your birthday party, but I really can't. Or I thought I was going to do XYZ in the 10-year window, but that's not looking realistic anymore. So I want to do this now instead. But as women, it's like once we say yes, we say yes. And we don't realize we can modify. And we can either modify the yes or make it a no, right? And we don't have to hold on to it so tight and just, turn ourselves into a pretzel to do something. And so that's the thing, many of us struggle with too, is like coming to the table and being honest about what I can and can't do based on circumstances.
Or what I want to do and what I don't want to do.
Money today. Exactly.
Yes.
That just happened today with Jessica, right? She was just like, I'm not feeling well. I'm just not going to be on camera that much. And I was like, okay. All right, I got you. Yeah. This is cultural liberation. Like, I'm not going to be like, no, Jessica, we decided we were going to do this event. You need to be there. I got you.
Yeah. But as Black women, we've been taught to make a way out of no way, to push through when you don't want to. And that's so ingrained in who we are, not only as a culture, but as women, right? And we've seen our mothers and grandmothers and aunts and people doing it. And that's a behavior we have to unlearn.
It is. And I'm going to tell you, I'm all about a life of ease. I am queen, get somebody else to do it. Do you hear me? I don't want to do nothing but what I want to do. And so it's so funny because people are like, oh, you send your clothes out for the laundry?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Like, oh, you don't cook anytime? I was like, baby, we can put stilettos in that oven. It's never getting turned on. I'm not going to cook. Why would I? I don't want to. I can eat without cooking, right? Even cleaning. I mean, anything that I don't want to do, I'm not doing because you only have so much time. Time is not infinite. It's finite. Right. You know what I'm saying? I venture to say it's finite is F. Okay. And so when I look at my day and I'm being intentional about what I want to do, I don't want to fill my day with the things I don't want to do just to get to the things I do want to do. I want to remove what I don't want to do so that I have more than enough time to do what I want to do and naps, right? And whatever I want to do. You know what I'm saying? Just add to it. And so I feel like that's great, Tosh, because we forget that we don't have to hurt. We don't have to go through things. We don't have to work hard. We don't have to do that. We're no longer the slave. Okay. Right. And so, and you don't have to be the external slave, and you darn sure don't have to be the internal slave. And so you can live a life of ease. Anything that seems hard, you can say, how can we make that easier? Right. And I mean, I find that it shows up. It's so ingrained in us. It shows up even we go to restaurants. Now, you don't have to be ugly about it, but if that's not what you ordered, baby, you don't have to make do with it, right? We order things in the mail. If that's not what you want, baby, go ahead and send that back. You know, so For us, we deserve to have what it is we want, and especially if I paid for it, boo, I'm gonna get what I paid
So,
for. We just don't have to be ugly and dramatic about it, but we
Mm-hmm.
deserve what we want, and we deserve a
Absolutely.
life of
But
ease.
that also
Yes.
comes from not knowing how to have healthy boundaries. You don't know how to stick up for yourself in a way that's not quote unquote, ghetto or extra or what have you, because you haven't been taught how to do that. You haven't seen people do that,
Yes.
right? That hasn't been mirrored for you. And so now it's not right. It don't feel right, but yet you don't know how to express it in the way that's really going to get you the result that you want. And
So
so
let me give a
that's
tip.
certainly a
Let me tell
byproduct
y'all
of that.
something.
But what I do
Look at
want to
Jessica
ask
laughing
you all,
already.
because I think this is so important, you brought up a good point, about ease. And this is the culture that we're in right now. Everybody's talking about the soft life and, all of these
Oh yeah.
things, which is great. How has living abroad helped you to accomplish that? Because I don't know about y'all, but for most of us here who's still here in the US, it's hard to have somebody cleaning our home and a personal trainer and, getting the massages and doing all the things that we're told we're supposed to be able to do. But it's harder for us to do it here when our money is stretched, when our time is stretched, right? When we got all of these moving parts. So how has that been living abroad?
Tosh, you want to go first? You want me to
No,
jump
go
in?
ahead. Go ahead. Jump in.
Okay. So for me, sometimes that's the benefit of living abroad, right? So again, you have to do things that are aligned with you. So in at a risk of being crass, that rich white person you want to be in America, you are that in other countries. Okay.
Amen.
So when I show up, all of that, how they feel, where, I'm not worried about that. That's what attorneys are for, or I'm not worried about that. That's what, that's why I make money. Yeah, that could be you in other countries. The benefit of just having an upgrade in life without having to work doubly hard to get more money, because your money is working harder for you because you have been brave enough to place yourself somewhere where that money will work harder for you. I mean, that's the cheat code, right? That's the cheat code. I mean, right now I'm over here complaining because the Mexican peso is, trying to make a comeback around here. It didn't dip below 17 pesos per dollar, but still, my life is great. You know what I'm saying? I can't miss out on that. So what we know is money is a tool, and without that tool, it's harder to have all these other things that we think we should have as a part of our life of ease. So if you go somewhere where the cost of living is less, and then the money currency is better in your favor, that's an immediate upgrade, right? That's an immediate upgrade. Now, I will tell you, there are people out here that some bloggers are telling them you can live over here for $400 a month, whatever. I don't want that life. That don't even
Right.
sound like ease to me. Wherever that $400 is probably not where I want to be, right? So, Tosh, you employer, I'm gonna come find you, boo. But I'm employer, right? I live right on the
Jerusalem.
strip. I live right on the strip. I live 3 blocks from the beach. And so I pay about 1,400 US dollars. But that sounds like, oh, well, you could have did that in US, not and be three
No,
blocks
you
from the
couldn't.
beach. Okay. Not to have 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. You know what I'm saying? Not be right on the strip in the midst of where everything is happening. Not have amenities like rooftop pools and gyms and all that stuff in your building. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I need a life of ease, but I also need a life of luxury. So I'm willing to pay a little more for that, but it's still never going to be what I would have paid in the United States. So basically, what I'm saying is, sometimes there's a cheat code, and when you don't take the cheat code, then you working harder. Is what I'm gonna say.
Facts. Facts. Miss Tosh.
I'm like, drop the mic. She said it all. She said it all. But what I will add, though, is that when I was in the US and I was trying to do those things, like here in Mexico, my week includes I take the clothes to the laundry, someone cleans my house. I can buy fresh fruits and vegetables every day. I'm a 10.5 minute walk from the beach, right? I could not, at this price point, replicate that in the United States. When I was in the United States and I had, I was getting a regular massage or someone was cleaning my house, I had to budget for it, And so if you want ease and flow in your life and you're still in the US, that means I had to sit down and be like, okay, I can only afford this service once a month because it's so expensive, right? Versus here in Mexico, I can do it weekly. I can only afford a massage twice a month because it's so expensive. Here, I could do it weekly and someone comes to my house. right? So I think if you want those things, if you want that kind of ease in your life, you have to be willing to not only budget it out, but be planful. Say, what am I willing to let go of? But what happens is everyone's so engrossed in social media and this comparisonitis, and they want the newest, latest, next best, blah, blah, blah. And they don't want to cook at home. And, a Chipotle quick run is $20 and you ain't even got nothing, right? And so you have to reconcile, like, do you want ease or do you want convenience? Like, what are you doing? And again, it all comes back to that inner exploration and that getting that clarity for yourself. You have to establish these boundaries in order to set up what it is you say you want. And the thing that's frustrating for me is I'll see people saying they want certain things, but then they're not rolling up their sleeves and doing the work. So the life that I live is not because I was just laid back on a pillow somewhere. I was introspective. I had conversations with my husband. I was researching, I was figuring out where would I want to be, what kind of climate, all of this stuff, right? So I had to actively show up to my life. And so if you want this or a version of this, you got to show up. You got to start asking yourself the question, and what are you willing to let go of? There's so many layers, but that's just what I would add. It's possible to have ease if you're still in the United States, but you got to ask the critical questions, be planful, and budget.
So what I heard you say, Tasha, is you're going to be discomfortable. You're going to be uncomfortable anyway. Just choose your discomfort, right? Choose your discomfort. You're scared to leave the United States and it's uncomfortable. Okay, stay there. But are you comfortable there? You know what I'm saying? So choose your discomfort.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's real. And I appreciate you all. I think, a lot of people, and we know this, right, is that when you just don't know something, you just don't know. Like you don't know what you don't know. And, I think so much of, our mental health, symptoms, obviously, mental health, it certainly goes back to, your people, you know what I mean? I mean, there's a history of it, but that doesn't mean that you have to have these experiences. But when you're going through all of these things and all of these questions and this unsurety and lack of clarity, and you're trying to figure out, well, everybody's talking about this, soft life and don't hustle and ease, but I don't have money, or I can't do all the things that I wanted to do unless I do hustle. That is going to create mental health issues.
It is.
Versus, okay, what is the solution to that? How can I have it? Like Nicole said, the world is your oyster.
Yeah. But the question is,
go ahead, Tasha. I'm sorry.
I was about to say, like, part of the question is, though, do you want all the things you think you want? Or are you operating from a program and a script? Because when I was in corporate America and I was earning that salary and going to that toxic environment every day, it was a script that I thought I wanted. And I was on that hamster wheel. And then when I hit the wall, I was like, wait a minute, what am I even doing? And is this success? Yeah. And do I want so again, it still comes back to that, because if you're consuming a lot of TV, if you're consuming a lot of social media, if you're not being a reflective person, it's easy to think you want certain things because you've been heavily marketed not because it's the truth of who you are and is in alignment with the life you want to live. Yeah. So, we also have to be conscious consumers of the environment we're in, so not to get too heady, but like that's in the background.
No, I mean, it's exactly real. And I think, and again, in all of this, it takes that courage, to even ask yourself the questions, to sit with yourself, to be okay with whatever comes up, right? Because now that what are you going to do about it? It all really takes that courage and just being okay with whatever it is. That if what you really want is out of alignment with where you are now, and it's out of alignment with everybody else is, that's okay. And and I love that, what you ladies have done is you've gone against the grain. I mean, we might think it's the grain now because everybody's talking about it, but you've gone against the grain, you know what I mean? And finding like what's okay for you, what's really going to work for you, what you really truly want. And that's why I think these conversations are so important, because so many people are not hearing these things, right? They're not aware.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even know about the options that exist for them because they are stuck in the programming. And so,
Mm-hmm.
Tosh, the questions that I have for you. So and Jessica, has been married, how many years now?
What
Jessica.
year are we in? This is 23.
23
So
years.
23.
We just had a big party for my parents who celebrated their 50th, wedding anniversary. I was married for 14 years before I got a divorce. And I work with a lot of couples who are, couples coaching, really trying to figure out, can we make this work? Do we want to make it work? How do we make it work? And after the divorce, how do I now thrive and heal after that divorce? So Tosh, what I would love to know from you is, how has, taking this leap, moving abroad, how has it impacted your marriage? And how can people who are struggling with all of these things, right? Because we all know people who have been married for years and years and years, not because they want to, but because they used to each other. They kind of stuck with each other at this point. How has moving really shifted that for you? And, when you talk about pleasure and all this stuff, like, what does that mean in the little things?
Wow.
Well,
That's a
ooh.
good one. Woo. I would say, just to boil it down, what came to me is that living here in Mexico, so leaving the US, moving to Mexico with my husband, it's required us to be in communication in a different way that we just didn't really necessarily have to in the United States. Because, when you're somewhere familiar, you're just not in communication, right? And we lived in a 3-story townhouse, so we had all this space, and
You don't have
I
to
don't want
deal
to
with
be
each other.
bothered, so I'm going to my room,
Yep.
like whatever it is, right? But now our space is so much smaller, and we're still learning Spanish, and we're still learning cultural norms, and it requires us to just be in communication regularly. Like, okay, what happened to you today? What happened when you went to the store? Tell me what you're experiencing, because we're helping each other thrive in this environment. And so I think that that's like been a big, big deepening in our relationship. And then the other thing is like learning how to share space. I mean, because if I'm mad at you, I don't live in like this big palatial apartment. It's small. And so it's like, okay, now we got to like kind of work through that more quickly, because I don't have a room to retreat to cool off. So now I need to be more upfront about, you're really annoying me right now. I can't do this. Or vice versa, right? Or to be willing to speak up and say, I need to go for a walk. I need some space, or I want to be here. Can you go for a walk? And I think those are not things we're trained to do when in relationship, because we have space. We have a car to just get in and move away, right? So that's really that's where we are now in terms of how it's changed us. And then I think in terms of pleasure, I think we're like relearning what's enough. I don't know if that makes sense, but in the US we have access to so much.
Yeah.
And again, we were
It's this thing
two
and the
adults
next,
living
next and the next and the next. It never ends. Yeah.
Right, it never ends. And then we lived in this like really big home and all of this stuff, right? And so now we're here, and it's just kind of like, okay, well, what's enough? Like, is this apartment enough? Is this where we live? Is this enough? And we have to be in communication about that. Like, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you not? Oh, you want to potentially explore another city. So if we moved, where would we move? A communication level. And I've been married for, next year will be 10 years. We never communicated like this. It like to this degree.
So it's almost like getting to know each other on a deeper level, even though you've been married all this time.
Yeah. I mean, like starting the expat journey and now being here. So I would say that's maybe like a 4-year window. of us learning how to really be more articulate with each other and be more honest and be more upfront about what do I want, what doesn't work, what would make me happy. Yeah.
Wow. Woo.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
amazing. And Shay Cannon, for you, so what somebody brought up, so Carmen brought up the dating apps, right? And so you talked a little bit about dating, and Tiffany said she's single, single, single. Everybody didn't even answer the question, so I know there's some more. So tell us a little bit more about that process. Like, how are you meeting the people that you're dating, and you've been in all these different countries, right? Is it different, in different countries, and how has it been with the different cultures, and and all of those things? How's the process been for you?
So I'll say that my process has kind of been almost no different than when I was in the United States, right? I don't go out a lot. I'm not social a lot because, I love me, and, I have sanctuary in my house. I take time to make my house to be what I want it to be and have the things that I want. So, it got to be something good to get me up out of here, right? And so I tend to be here a lot because I have built solitude and peace. So when you're not going out, you can't expect for the man to just come knocking on your door. So, but when I do go out, I am observant, right? I pay attention. Because guess what? I have to tell people that language is more than words. That come hither look, or that damn you fine look. I mean, that it transcends language. And so pay attention when you're out. But I do love me a good dating app. I think so. I think Carmen is talking about from my episode. Like I talked about, Tinder is my favorite app. But I have I'm in operations. So y'all know I got protocols and frameworks for everything, right? But I kind of have my thing to where I know that I'm a person that likes great conversation, right? So there are words involved. And if we have to use a translator, I'm fine using a translator. It's more people here in Mexico that speak English than there were in Argentina. So I was definitely dating via Google Translate in Argentina. We'd be at the table with the Google Translate and slide the phone. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And when it was time to go, guess what? We didn't need to slide the phone because we knew. But here, more people speak English here. But what I find is whether I'm translating or not, I still need conversation. And so I'm looking for in the app, are you giving me enough conversation? Because I'm not with those I'm better in person people. We're not going to see each other that often in the beginning. So I need you to be better with conversation. So before you try to switch me out of here to WhatsApp, how is the conversation going here? Okay, now, how is the conversation going to WhatsApp? Send me some pictures. Let's video chat. Let's do these things. Okay, now let's meet, right? So I have my little phases, and they don't have time periods attached to them because some people can fly right through it in one day, right? Some people, not so much. So it's not the time periods. It's just the phases that I need. But what I have found is, when you are in an economy where, your currency is stronger and you can afford more things than them, it becomes a reverse sugar baby situation that you have to get used to. Right. So along with getting used to the aesthetics that's not black men, along with getting used to, wait a minute, you mean to tell me the Mexicans in the River Maya are short and here I am 6 feet, and in the US I didn't want to date shorter than 5'10", and now I'm here and y'all got the nerve to be 5'5", you know what I'm saying? So once you get over all of that, then you're shocked with, oh, they can't take me nowhere, right? They can't really take me any place that I would want to go. So now you have to deal with that part of it, right? And so I would experience men realizing that when they would ask me to do things that I didn't want to do, and I'm like, no. So I'm telling them no, probably too many times in a row for them. Right. So I'm like, oh, what's going on with this? So I finally met a dude, right, who was, he had been in the US. And so he understood cultural references. He understood, spoke English great. I tell a joke and, it could be all kind of innuendos and he's picking up, he laughing. I'm like, oh, you get it? Okay. Right. So I had a straightforward conversation with him. I was like, listen, where I come from in the US, I was taught that a man's first and foremost value is he has to provide. And what we meant back then was financially. Clearly, y'all ain't doing that. You can't do that, whatever. What else can you provide? Right. oh Lord, y'all, let me tell you. So he basically was like, okay, that's easy. I can provide emotional support, right? I can provide companionship. I can provide new experiences. I can provide affection and intimacy. I can provide. I'm just sitting there like something clicked, and I'm like, oh, you mean all the shit I wasn't getting because I was focused on money? Is that what you mean? Okay, okay. So that mindset shift was needed. So now what I know I need from someone who can't pay anything for me, right? I need new experiences, right? I need you to help me with that side of myself that needs that emotional support or that intimacy, that affection. And like, I want all that. And he was like, well, they don't call us Latin lovers for nothing. I was like, you know what? That's why I like you. What you doing at 5 o'clock? But yeah, I mean, you kind of have to get into understanding like what's different, and it's no different than what we've said all along, which is figure out who you are, and then what's aligned with that, right? Avalaura, you said something that was very key, right? Sometimes we think we want stuff, and it's not even what we want, right? Yeah, I want 6-pack abs, but I'm not about to do all that it takes to get 6-pack abs. I'm not going to do it. So, do I really want 6-pack abs? Nope. You know what I'm saying? I really do not. So we just have to figure out, like, deep down, what do we want besides what we have been taught? You know what I'm saying? Besides what has been pushed on us that we didn't even realize wasn't even working.
We didn't even realize, right? Because we don't know what we don't know.
It just made sense. You're supposed to make the money.
Yeah.
You know
but what I love what both of you said, like, regardless of where you are in the relationship process, is that you had to have that mental shift. You absolutely had to, because now you're coming across things that you weren't even aware of, you hadn't even thought about. You weren't in the space where you had to think about it. And now you have to, so now you got to deal with it. What are you going to do? And I love that, because I mean, you're right, Tosh, like, you really can be, married. We all know that you can be married and you can be alone. You can be married and not really know your partner. You can be married and not really spend a lot of time with each other. And so now you doing this together. Like, you got to figure it out together. So you have to be with each other. You have to communicate. I remember that when I was married, before my marriage phased out, again, in my big, over a 3,000 square foot home, I'm up here, you up there. We don't even see each other. We ain't even living in the same room no more. So you over here, I'm over here, all this going on. And it's very different when you like, okay, we are actually in partnership together and we have to figure this out. We have this project, or, whatever it is that we're working on together. So now we actually got to be together, not just look like we're together. That's real. That requires a mental shift. And, Shakani, you're right. Like, cause I grew up the same way too. I'm from Connecticut, but my daddy is from Atlanta. Okay. And my mom was from Oklahoma. So the man is supposed to take care of you. He is supposed to provide. That is what he's supposed to do. Now, I think what's a little different, I was raised because my father wasn't just a financial provider. He was there for us. He did a lot more sometimes than even my mother. So, I came from the side, he cooked, he cleaned, he picked us up from school. He did all of that. My mom, let me tell you something. So when I'm looking at man, I'm like, oh, that's all you doing? Hold on now. No, that's not enough.
Get it together.
But a lot of people don't necessarily have that experience. And so you're absolutely right. We're looking at one thing, and then there's all these things that are slipping in the cracks, and we don't even think about it. And now you're like, wait a minute, hold on, I can have a whole different experience here. And you can do this anywhere. But what happens is, I think when we get stuck in a rut and we get, comfortable in where we are in our lifestyle, we just don't do it. We just don't. Yeah. So I thank you all for sharing your experiences. This has been so awesome. I know we're running out of time a little bit. Any closing thoughts?
I wanted to share two things real quick, because somebody might need to hear this, which is, when I was in the US and I realized how sick I was, like, not only did I have an eye twitch, but I didn't know what was going on. And I eventually went to a doctor who did a mental health assessment. And she was like, you have severe anxiety bordering on depression. I need you to go see a psychotherapist, and you need to take some meds. And I ended up needing to take meds for almost 2 years. just to stabilize myself. And I didn't realize how much of a fog I was in until I was taking the meds. It was like the meds lifted the fog. And I had just been so on the hamster wheel of, I got to get to work. I got to get these things done. It was a high stress environment and toxic. And so I just want to say for anyone who might need to hear this, that give yourself permission to be evaluated and to take meds under supervision, because it's not that you need meds forever. You just may need it to get through the
That's what
fog.
it's supposed to be.
So I appreciate that I had someone who did that for me. It was a blind spot. So I didn't even know that I didn't know. But then, my husband was supportive too. And he said, okay, well, if that's what you need to do, you know, let's do it. Let's make sure you're taking them. And, it changed our home life too, because then it used to be I could just wash the laundry, but I couldn't fold it. I was like, it's in the basket. But when I took meds, I was like, I can wash it and fold it. I mean, like, these are small
Yeah.
things, but somebody might
Yeah.
be that stressed and that feeling like you're on the fringe, and you don't know, and you don't have the words, and you don't have the context, and no one around you has talked about it, because we have a lot of shame and embarrassment about Black community, about going to therapy, about taking meds. But, I was taking meds, I was going to therapy, and I was seeing an acupuncturist. So I had an entire wellness team to get me to the place to return to wholeness. I didn't even know how fractured I was. So I want to just share that for anybody who might need to hear it. And then the second piece is that earlier this year, the Surgeon General released a big announcement that in America, people are experiencing a loneliness
Yes.
epidemic. And the epidemic of loneliness is the equivalent of having 15 cigarettes a day. So even though we are potentially online and on these hamster wheels and doing all these things, we're still disconnected, and we don't feel seen. We don't have enough sisterhood. We don't have enough real, deep, meaningful, authentic relationships. And so if you're that person who doesn't feel connected, who doesn't feel like you have authentic sisterhood, start a hobby, get out of the house, go do something so that you can meet some people, because it's a health concern. It's not just it would be nice to have. It's actually impacting your health, not being in community and connected to people. And I think that these two things are both, circling back to
Absolutely.
mental health, right? That's what spirals
Absolutely.
us down. So, yes, prioritize your pleasure. Yes, do something every day that's just a quick, simple pleasure that brings you a smile to your face, right? Sit in silence for 15 minutes a day and ask yourself, what do you want? It's simple things. You don't need to have money to do the things I'm talking about. You just have to be willing to prioritize yourself and put 15, 20, 30 minutes on the calendar for this. Okay. So for anybody who needs those messages, I just wanted to share those things to the conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And Zarina said, great conversation, ladies. And Tiffany said, wow, you better speak, Tosh, the journey of showing up for you. And ultimately, that's really what this is about. However you choose to do it, it is showing up for you in the capacity that you need to do that. And I'm grateful that, you all showed up today. Really blessing us with your wisdom and your stories. And you're absolutely right. Like, we don't have enough of these conversations. And so there are so many of us who are unaware, because we don't have the community. We don't have the people in our circles that we maybe feel safe, to share these things with. We don't even know that we need to have these conversations, right? And so I hope that you all, got whatever it is that you needed or didn't even know that you needed today. I hope that something really spoke to you. And, there's so much more that we could talk about. Like, this is so just the beginning. This is a little snapshot, but that you'll keep going from this moment, that you'll be able to take something or some things that, one of us said today. and use it for your mental wellness, for your daily self-care, to be able to live the life that you really want to live, whatever that looks like for you. And so I'm glad that you all showed up today, whether you were speaking, whether you were here listening, absorbing, watching, taking it all in. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting us to be here.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I love the spaces that you ladies create, and I love to be in them and share. So thank you so much.
Listen, this is passion, purpose. I'm grateful that I have the ability to do it. That really is it. That I can easily do it. That me and Jessica be like, you know what, we want to do this. Okay, let's do it. That's freedom to me. Like let's just do it. Okay. Miss.
And you're equipping people with what's possible,
Yes.
right? There's such a range of what's possible,
Yes.
and it doesn't have to be one way. So there's freedom in that too, knowing you can make your own way, or you can do a modified version of any of the things that any of us have shared.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that, you got to be exposed to it. You got to know. You got to know.
Yeah.
Miss Jessica, you want to add anything before we close out?
No, I just want to give a shout out to Carmen. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. We appreciate you, girl. And also just say hello to everyone that's watching us on YouTube. We've had several ladies that have given some comments. So I'll leave it to you all to go and just respond to those comments and say hello and all that good stuff. But they have loved the conversation. They are cracking up at you, Chican. So a lot of laughing emojis in the chat. But thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. We want to thank all of our speakers for joining us during this session. We will be coming back and doing more of these because we're definitely seeing a need. And we are super excited about what's to come here with Black Women Leave America. Our next season will be coming up here really, really soon. So stay close for that. If you're interested in figuring out and finding out ways that you can take care of yourself, and also taking our self-care scale assessment, because we put together a whole assessment for you to figure out ways that you can take care of yourself and identify exactly the way that you can do that within our ebook. So go ahead and check that out if you're interested in that. I'm just here to plug all the things and make sure we can keep the lights on. So that's my job. Important. So make sure you go ahead and support the podcast in any way that you can. $5, $10, or $100, whatever you feel like you can spare. You go ahead and just go ahead and visit the links that are in our description and also in the chats as well. Or go ahead and email us, blackwomenleaveamerica@gmail.com. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Avalaura to bring us to a close.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tosh, for sharing that. Shakana, do you have any closing thoughts?
I want to uphold Tosh and remind people that even if you need support that comes in the form of medication, that is still a life of ease, right? Mm-hmm. That's taking the ease way, the path, not trying to fight through it. We don't have to fight through stuff. If help and support is available, we should take that. I do want to say that, like, if you're interested in this lifestyle, I need you to know, I just want give you a few things to shift your mind, right? And that is, most people, when they think of leaving the country, they think of leaving everything that they know. And what I need you to understand is, wherever you go, your people are there. Wherever you go, your people are there. And you can even find them before you go to a place. Facebook groups are great. Black expats in Playa del Carmen. There's a group, right? Black expats in. Just search wherever. You don't have to come where me and Tosh are. You know what I'm saying? We might start acting like Atlanta. But I'm just saying, just search Black expats wherever you want to go, because your people are there, right? Another thing I want you to understand is, I want to reiterate that language is more than words. So if you're still practicing your Spanish or practicing whatever, there's still a way for you to get through. No worries, because I speak like a toddler. I should be ashamed. I am not, because I live a life of ease, and it doesn't include learning Spanish right now. So I speak like a little Spanish toddler. I do phrases, right? So you can't go too far with me. So don't worry about not being fluent in the language. Get there and immerse, and you'll learn it if you're not opposed to it. And the last thing I want to say is if you're a good person, you're going to attract good people. So don't allow the propaganda of them highlighting the bad people keep you from the 90% of good people that's there for you, right? Another thing about being here in Mexico is because I treat people like people, I'm a good person. Other good people recognize the goodness in me. They don't care I don't know Spanish. They care that I'm not treating them like they're below me, right? They care that I'm at least trying to communicate in some manner, and they give me grace. They give me more grace than they get when they come to our country. Okay, because one thing
Yes.
about it, you understood what they said. Because they didn't use proper English don't mean anything. You understood, so that is communication, right? Just because they didn't use the Queen's English does not
We
matter.
don't use it.
And then you come here and they're apologizing to you for their English, and it's way better than your Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
grace, give yourself grace. Just know that if you're a good person, you're going to find other good people, because we attract each other and we recognize each other, and that's all you need is good people.
And on that note, listen, that's real. Every single commonality, anything in life that you really want to achieve is really all about the people that you surround yourself with. I have learned that over and over and over again. And so you were absolutely right. That's why we wanted to end this on the relationships, because it really is all about the relationships. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for hanging in there. You want to see these ladies, learn more, check out their interviews on season 1 and 2 of Black Women Leave America on YouTube, Spotify. Where else are we? I think we everywhere, but yeah, go to YouTube so we can start making some YouTube money. That's the goal. We want some YouTube money. So go to YouTube. And we will certainly see you next time. I'm not going to give you a date when season 3 going to come out, because like Jessica, it's going to come out when it come out. And as Shakana said, this is about ease. So I don't even give people dates no more, because I don't want to be held to that date. So just when it drop, it drop. Just pay attention.
Whenever it drop, we going to need it. So there we go.
Listen, that's what we doing. So thank you much, ladies. We will see you next time, whenever that is, whenever we decide. But we would love to hear from you if there is anything that you do want to learn, if there's anything that you do want to experience. Please let us know. Feel free to email us. I think our contact information is somewhere around here, or just reply to the
Or you can join the Facebook group as well. We don't post a lot in there, but the folks are absolutely there. So we do episodes have dropped. We also let you know when we're doing things like this, which we will do more of in the future. So make sure you go ahead and just search for Black Women Leave America podcast. And you can find our Facebook page there. You should be able to join the group, and I'll also place that link in the chat as well.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. Connect in any way that you see fit. We will see you all next time. Enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you, ladies. Until next time, wishing you peace, love, and bountiful blessings. Create an amazing day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.